Girl, I know you got a lot of problems, so why you put them all on me? Might have to stop getting all this money. I just realized I was killing trees. Put it through the counter, yeah, repeat. Ay, she won't do it to you, but she feeling me. Yeah, we be riding around.
What is going on, gang? It's the Funny Man, and I have a question for y'all. What do Jamal Murray, John Morant, and Jimmy Butler all have in common? They have all been the poster child for recency bias, and that's what we'll be talking about in today's video. Now, what is recency bias? Recency bias is a cognitive bias that favors recent events over historic ones. So when this term is used in specific to the NBA, it usually happens when a player exceeds the expectations that are set for them, whether that be through team success or personal achievements. And then that player starts to enter conversations that they do not belong in. They begin to get ranked too high, and people start saying this person is either top 5 or this person is going to be the future, even though the sample size of this player's talent was fairly small. Perfect example of this last season was Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray in the regular season averaged 18 points, 4 assists, 4 rebounds on 34% from the 3 and 45% from the field, which for a player in his 4th year isn't bad at all. But where his recency bias began, just like many others, is the playoffs, where his points per game went from 18 to 26, his assists went from 4 to 6, and true shooting percentage went from 56 to an astounding 62. Now, not to mention, he was a pivotal part of the Nuggets, coming back down 3-1 twice in one playoff round and had 2 50-point games in the same series, and nobody seemed to know where it came from. But the real ones know where it came from. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, now you may be asking, Funny Fat Boy, what's wrong with that? Sounds like he was playing out of his mind. And to that, I respond, yes, he was. But with that, people started saying Jamal Murray is a top 5 point guard and including him in debates that he did not belong in, saying he was better than people like De'Aaron Fox, Russell Westbrook, and even Trae Young, which just is not true. His performance in those playoff games left many people as prisoners of the moment. Another player who became somewhat of the poster boy of recency bias is Jimmy Butler. Now, Jimmy Butler is a special case because Jimmy Butler has solidified himself as a great player in this league. But unlike Jamal, who is still growing as a player, Jimmy last season averaged 19.9 points, 6 assists, and 6 rebounds on 45% from the field and 58% true shooting, which unlike Jamal, wasn't too much different from his playoff numbers, which were 22 points, 6 assists, and 6 rebounds on 61% shooting. But where Jimmy Butler's bias came from was the success of his team in the regular season and the playoffs where they made it to the finals. That was seemingly led by Jimmy Butler because of the type of player he is. Gritty, will leave it all on the floor, and some might say he has heart. Then on the biggest stage, he had 2 40-point triple-doubles in the only 2 games that the Heat won against LeBron and AD in the finals. So when he left it all on the floor, the fans fell in love with him and what he did. Then Jimmy Butler started entering top 10 player talks, being considered better than people like Paul George, Kyrie Irving, and Damian Lillard, which is convos, in my opinion, he was never in prior to that run. Now fast forward to this season, both Jamal and Jimmy, who still played well in the regular season, have came back down to earth, so to speak, especially for the fans. And in Jimmy Butler's case, he's underperformed the second time around in the playoffs and fell short of the leave it all on the floor expectations set for him, averaging 15 points per game, 6 assists, and 6 rebounds on a terrible 30% from the field and a really underwhelming 40% true shooting, and got swept by the Giannis-led Bucks. Now, am I trying to say that these players aren't good? No. Recency bias effects also include setting the bar too high for certain players based on a small sample size, which is truthfully the fans' fault. then when they don't rise to the occasion, so to speak, those same fans begin to slander them somewhat unfairly. Let's talk about who I feel like the poster child for recency bias is this year, and that is Ja Morant. Ja Morant is a sophomore who's averaging 19 points per game, 7 assists, and 4 rebounds on 45% from the field and 53% true shooting. But as we know, Ja and the Grizzlies found their way into the playoffs by way of the play-in, where he had 35 points in an overtime win against the Warriors. And in the 2 games that Ja has played in the first round against the Jazz, he's averaging an astounding 36 points per game, 5 assists, and 4 rebounds, 55% from the field, and 63% true shooting, which is crazy. But with all of that, and keeping Stephen Curry out of the playoffs, he has started some wild conversations. Saying Ja's a top 5 point guard, saying Ja is Steph Curry's dad, which I feel like is more of a troll. And now him and Trae Young are being debated, which I feel like is just wild. Now, Ja is a bit of a unique case because last season he had 35 points in a loss to Portland in a playoff game. So he seems to step up to the plate and manages to create more success every year. So his case is what I like to call the I was first syndrome, which is just like a subculture of recency bias, which is when an NBA fan sees a player playing well and they begin to say things about the player that is not true in the moment, but have the chance to be true in the future. Just so they can say, I was the first to say it, which I believe is where Ja Morant's recency bias comes from. If you enjoyed listening to the funny fat man ramble about recency bias, then like, comment, subscribe, and share with all your friends. And remember, the moral of the story is, if you want to perform better in high-pressure situations, just do like Jamal Murray and go get some help.
So why you put them all on me? Might have to stop getting all this money. I just realized I was killing trees. Put it through the counter, yeah, repeat. Ay, she won't do it to you, but she feeling me. Yeah, we be riding around.